Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And hello again, everybody. Here we are, Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Yes, subscribe. All right, okay. All right, just do it, right? It's the thing to do, where they tell me on YouTube. You say subscribe. So, yeah, feel free to do all the good stuff. Put a bell on it, like it, comment on it, have fun with it. Okay, all right. We're here with an amazing being and up and coming, rising, amazing spiritual rock stars. Written a couple books already, doing incredible things. You're going to be impressed by this being and who she is. Glad to have you on today, Winter.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure thing. So I'm going to share with you, there's some things in here that pop for me. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting about Winter. Let me share this about Winter. Winter comes from a lineage of intuitively gifted ancestors, developing her own connection with source energy by the age of 10. Like, okay, full enlightened master by 10. But I mean, it's so cool that she has this lineage, I mean, how many of us can say that? Not many. So it's really incredible. She facilitates transformation and rebirth for her SoulCall coaching clients, providing ongoing support with empathy and divine guidance while watching their rise to success. She also, as a Reiki master healer, has been trained in the art of transformational coaching as well. FES Flower Essence practitioner, facilitator of shamanic journeying practices, and author of 2 books, Goddess Grows Up, You Are the Gift, as well as Our Shadows, Our Light, a writing journal, our journey with Goddess. So I'm glad to have you here.
So excited to be here.
Uh-huh. All right, yeah, the first time I met Winter, we had a phone call, and I told her, I mean, she's just very present, and I said, yeah, you could just really, you don't have to say too much, although we're going to talk a lot, I think, but you don't have to say too much, people, you just bring people into um, their deeper essence just by being in your frequency. And I think that that's something for you guys to pay attention to while we're hanging out with Winter today. So, Winter, I'd love to ask you a question before we dive into, specific questions about the topic today, energetic responsibility. Tell us, what is it like growing up in a family where you have this whole lineage of ancestors, that have been tuned in doing this sort of work? What's that like? Tell us about that.
It was very unusual. At the time when it was happening, I was experiencing dreams and sensations and encounters, and then going to my mother, um, telling her about these things and preparing for her to be shocked. And instead, she would just say, "Oh, I see that happen all the time," or "It's happened to me." And it was really wonderful in the way that I realized that no matter what I experienced, if I brought it to her, it was embraced. So I wasn't told to like shut it down. I wasn't told to like not talk about it. And I feel that it really helped encourage my curiosity about it. And with that curiosity, even more gifts unfolded.
That's so awesome. I mean, that's one of the repeated stories we hear from people that don't grow up in these families. All the other types of families, usually people have grown up with here in the States, especially, and places like that. And it's like, yeah, I was seeing things, everything. All of a sudden, I realized other people weren't, and then I just all of a sudden it started going away. And that's what we see a lot of people coming back to their gifts that they've had even when they were younger. It's a matter of almost kind of just coming back to it, coming back to what's always been there. And so it's quite a journey for people to come back. So I think it's really interesting when we have like someone is basically an exception. Like, no, for it's courage from the beginning. I was diving in, I was learning things right away, and how that. So, what benefits did that bring you, and was there any sense of a downside to being nurtured in that way? Was there any sense of a downside to it?
The only downside I really experienced with it wasn't until I got a bit older when I realized not everyone was having these experiences, that I was kind of like an isolated case. And I found that I could only share my experiences with certain friends. Like once I reached college, I'd never talked about what was happening with my experiences in high school or middle school, because I felt it was just like a family thing. It didn't feel to be shared. But once I got to college and I started meeting others who were also curious about things like that, and they were playing with the tarot and whatnot, and I felt safer to open up about it there. But I realized that like not everyone was having that experience, and I had to just kind of be mindful of who I shared it with, because there were some times when I shared it with someone who was not open to that, and they just kind of looked at me as though I had a second head. I'm like, anyway, like
Anyway,
subject as fast as possible. Like I didn't just say that.
right. Never mind. Don't
Never
worry.
mind.
Well, we're masters of throwing people off a lot of times as energy people, because we learn to do that for safety. We're like, oh, look over there. Okay, we're fine. I always call it like a Jedi mind trick, right? So yeah, no, never mind that. Okay, let's go. So yeah, we learn to cope, and I think that's the feeling a lot of people have had throughout their various lifetimes, and then coming into this life, and then the people listening are coming out to play as light leaders and with those gifts and those abilities that they have. And I think a lot of times I think a lot of the conversation has probably been a lot about blaming, society and, whatever, our parents or whoever, blaming people for the fact that we're in the energy we're in. Like, listen, I could have, we could be in a light society, but somebody screwed it up. And I'm trying to get into our subject here because I think it all connects, right? It's like no, not taking a responsibility at some level. Now it's kids that you would expect them to be, to just be like, hey, no, I own my power. I've got these gifts. We're gonna discount them, but as adults, is a little bit different for sure then. And we realize like, okay, that happened, but we tend to, just talking this in the last show I did, and we tend to want to blame people. And I think we all do it. It's just kind of a and I'm kind of wondering why we do that. What's your perspective on that? Why we don't take energetic responsibility for our past and we blame, who society, our parents, whoever, something else.
I feel like it's a reflex. And the reflex comes out of a defensiveness. And when a reflex comes out of defensiveness, it's not something that's coming from the heart, it's coming from the head, a wanting to kind of close
Mhm.
off. But it takes like that awareness, that consciousness of like, oh, wait, I just blamed this person for something, but let me take a look at it from like my side. Like, how am I contributing to this
Mhm.
dynamic? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, I take it to an extreme, like I really, not that I'm always walking around with this consciousness, but the real truth is like at some level it's happening through us, or we're creating it, however you want to look at it, and it's not being done to us, it's being done for us, all those things, right? So it's like, and it's hard for people to feel that way when it's trauma based too, right? Like
Hmm.
I was raped, or I was, my God, that's happening for me. Are you kidding me? I mean, so, but there's always some deeper purpose to everything we experience, no matter what it is, whether it was this life, past lives, etc. And there's so many people, crying out now that we all can communicate with each other online and everything, screaming out for all these different causes. And I think that's kind of where it starts. But I think, ultimately we have to take more. I don't know if this is where you wanted to go today, but for your interview, but I'm like, we all need to take more energetic responsibility, I think, for ourselves individually as well. Otherwise, there'll always be something to blame.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And this is a thing that happens on so many levels. And it's the kind of thing where I keep running into it again and again when I'm doing classes, workshops, when I'm working with clients, when they're saying they're in a specific mood or energetic space, and I'm just like, well, like, what happened to you this week? Like, tell me what went on. And it'll usually end up being either having something to do with watching the news, too much social media. And what I have to keep explaining and putting out there is that consciousness is not an enclosed thing. So when we're interacting with people, with technology in these different ways, part of our energy goes there. And unless we are careful in what we consume and how we use technology, and how we conduct our interactions, you will inevitably feel drained, feel resentful, wanting to blame like whatever else is like going on. But in actuality, we all have the control to be able to mitigate this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't, we end up coming into this place of exhaustion, frustration, irritation, and then that turns into a dynamic when we're entering the next situation, the next entanglement, where it goes to this place where it didn't have to go to of negativity or pain. Like, it didn't have to go there. If we had only backed up a little bit and acknowledged, okay, what am I consuming? How is it making me feel? Okay, I probably shouldn't be like engaging with that. And just being more mindful of how we are interacting with our energy. And I feel that it's not just intuitives, empaths, psychics, it's everybody. Everybody's an energetic being. So no one's excluded from this.
Right. I mean, it's so true. And I know, like, some people feel like even spiritual leaders and whatnot, sometimes actually you'll even say, like, I've heard them say, like, well, it's not about, not paying attention to what's happening in the world. And you've got to, you still need to watch the news, you got to watch what's going on and all that stuff. And I think that's debatable. I think it's debatable. I think it's worth the debate. It's like, well, maybe. I know when I turn everything off, though, if I turn all that stuff off, I don't watch it, I don't entertain it so much. If someone's talking about it, I don't really, if I let it go, if I don't really engage it too much, and I just let it pass through, I just feel clearer. I feel happier. I feel like more of that heaven on earth energy comes into me now, because my head and my pain body isn't all caught up in all this stuff that's going on in the world, in the world that's, the imaginary world, in a way. I know that's harsh for people maybe to hear, maybe, but maybe not this audience, but like, that's an imaginary world. We don't know what the truth is about everything. We don't know the absolute truth of every situation. Here's evidence, here's this evidence, here's that evidence of whatever it is. I mean, Trump sucks, Biden sucks, or whatever. We could go on and on, all these different ideas, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, fill in the content. But it's an imaginary world, really, because we don't really know all the truth. We say, well, I sense this or I feel that, but I even say, like, well, would you even tune into it? So many of us are intuitive people. I'm like, you're just coming from your pain body or mind. You're not even tuning into the situation and your relationship with even the people in your life. You're just making assumptions and concepts, and everybody's families are fighting now. They're fighting about COVID. They're fighting about Black Lives Matter. They're fighting about the election. They're fighting about all this stuff. And it's, what's the point? You know, it's like, where do you think this is going? Where's it? What's, where's the love? I mean, where's the energetic responsibility to, come back to love, which everybody wants. Everybody wants to experience unconditional love. Everybody wants to share unconditional love. But this stuff becomes a distraction, doesn't it? I
It really
mean,
does.
it's amazing. It's amazing how that happens. So what can people do? I know you have your own definition of energetic responsibility, right?
Hmm.
So I'd love to hear what that is, and then how, I'd love to hear what some of your suggestions are for us to take this energetic responsibility.
So some of the things that people can do, it can be a range, honestly, from something as simple to just paying attention to like how you're feeling after being around certain people, after having certain engagements, certain interactions, and then just kind of like taking care of yourself, whether that means like having some like you time and like separating a little bit to kind of like detox from that energy, all the way to if you're the kind of person who what the work that you're doing, you have to be online, like you have to be in those engagements, then it's about tailoring it in a certain way that works for you and that doesn't drain you. So that's finding ways to kind of mitigate certain like tasks, whether it's like being on social media so that you don't have to be on there as often, um, paying attention to the messages that are coming up in your feed to like see which ones you need to block or stop following. It becomes this thing where you can really kind of create your own little world. Like COVID has actually presented us with this opportunity to literally curate our own little world if we want to, especially since we're not doing as in person stuff anymore and it's all online, where we really are like the masters. We have control over our activities and what it is that we do. So why not create that kind of environment where you feel really good, where you feel energized, and it's a lot of positivity that's like surrounding you and nothing that's draining you too much. I mean, there's certain things that can't be avoided, like depending upon the kind of work that you do, but there's always a way for you to take care of yourself before and afterwards.
Yeah, especially again, most of our listeners are more, a little extra sensitive, a little extra empathic, right? Compared to maybe the spectrum of the whole population. And so for all of us, like, yeah, this is something we talk about again and again on the show, but it's like, as an empathic being, sensitive being, yeah, I mean, we literally can just go in a funk. We could feel like we want to die after we just saw one post online. Like, we're so sensitive. Like, I'd rather be dead than feel what I'm feeling right now. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to feel it. It's like it feels too bad. It's too heavy. What's the point? Um, because this is going on, then that means it's the end of the world. Basically, is what it comes down to.
Mhm.
We can't deal. This can't be. We can't accept this to be right. So, which is just the opposite of what we're taught in basic spirituality of like love and embrace all that is because it is. So it's a very interesting times when people are saying, no, why aren't you fighting? Even at churches that I go to, I've gone to, no, we got to fight for social justice. And I understand it. I understand the value of all those things, but it's some of the energy that comes into it, I think, is something to be mindful of. It's like we gotta fight. It's always we gotta fight, and I think that is, in my opinion, is my perspective is a mistake. And so, how can we take more energetic responsibility for what's happening in the world when, like people say, I don't know, again, if you don't want to go here, we don't have to. But when someone says like, hey, unless you do deep dive work on your racism, you're racist, like, hey, like literally you just are racist. So, are these things, are people, or in the healing field, I'll give you another a couple of topics. Another one is like, if we're doing healing work online, which many of the people listening might be doing that, oh, you're a fraud, because we all know that's a bunch of hocus pocus, it's placebo effect. There's so many things we can get ridiculed for and told that we're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're just bad, or you're, whatever it is. And we get triggered. We're sensitive. So how can we possibly, when we get go unconscious, when we're triggered and we're sensitive, how do you regain your consciousness? Basically, is I guess my question ultimately.
Um, when you get triggered by, what's going on in the world, whether it's different forms of social activism or it's the certain perspectives of people who may or may not believe in like the healing work that we do. It's one of those things that I've found the best way to navigate that energy is to just observe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I maintain a detachment with it, and I just observe it. And especially when it came to like the whole BLM with the Black Lives Matter movement, especially like in my family being mixed, it did bring up a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one of those times where I was just watching everyone's reactions and seeing how they were responding. And when I was asked questions, I came from that same place of detachment and
Mm-hmm.
just observation. It was this thing where I felt it was actually kind of like surreal because I was able to see all sides of it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the perspective I came from. I didn't take anything personally, even when it came to discussions between me and my partner. I came from that very objective perspective, which irritated the heck out of him. He's like, "How could you see it?" And I'm just like, "I can see it all, like all sides, like." But I think that's part of like what it is that I do in terms of like um, the channeling and the healing. Like I can see it like from far away, and I don't get like pulled into it like that. Um, but there are moments when triggering does happen, and it's at that moment when I also remember to like take a deep breath, like do the pause, to take that deep breath, do the pause, and then consider, okay, do I want to respond from that triggered place?
Yeah.
Or can I respond from like that detached perspective? Like, which way do I want to go with it?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and there's certain situations that you can't always respond to because you realize it has nothing to do with you. Like, it has something to do with that person, and that is in regards to anything, whether it is the movement or whether it is someone who is saying that all that healing wellness stuff like on the internet is like hocus pocus. It's like, okay, you have a right to your perspective. I'm not going to try and argue it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also not going to engage with it because it's like those become the extremes, right? And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I could see that you're actually coming from a triggered place, and I'm
Right.
not going to engage with that energy. I'm
Right.
just going to like observe and note it and then like move on.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so right on. I mean, that's sometimes I've questioned myself, I mean, like, because I mean, there's so many people go online, yeah, I'll tell you something, I know something, I gotta, so many people are doing that. And literally my mind thinks at times, I'm like, when I'm triggered with certain things, I'm like, I'll share that post. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to share that post. I just, my mind, my pain body, my mind coming up with something to post about. Even, and then it gets clever too, right? Well, I'll weave it in this way or that way, and And no matter what you do, people can sniff it out right away, and then they are attack, attack, attack. And it's like it's sort of a war. It's sort of an energy war in a way, right? We're just
Yeah.
fighting ourselves, really, but like I'm fighting myself. And it looks like you. That's what's so hilarious. So what if I wonder if that would be liberating for people and energetic responsibility, right? Is for us to remember, in a way, you're only real. I know, like this gets pretty deep because you have a book around shadows. It's like your own shadow self might actually um, see all sides like Winter is really connected with. You might actually see all sides, but you don't want to engage with the side uh, that's the other side, right? So like maybe I could see some value there, but I don't want to see that. That is so horrible. I don't want to see that in myself. So I don't want to see I don't want to see that maybe this COVID thing's real, for people that are denying it or whatever. Like I don't want to see that Trump's good in any level, even a speck, even a micro speck. I forget about it. Or I don't want to see Biden's good or whatever it is. It's like we don't want to see it. So we try to disown it. We try to make it wrong or make it back, but it's all within us. I think that's what's so amazing. And so how can we deal with how do you help people and how can people do it on their own? But like also how do you help people deal with these disowned aspects of themselves where they're not willing to take responsibility of how it's really them that they're dealing with?
Um, this is part of the reason why I felt it was so important in both books to kind of go into the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
because I find that in, I guess, like our industry, there's a lot of people who kind of sort of preach like stay in the light, like it's all about, yeah, it life is light and dark, yin and yang. There's a balance, um, and shadow is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just showing those parts of ourselves that we haven't acknowledged, embraced, and reconciled. So it's an opportunity to to get to know like that forgotten, that disempowered aspect of ourselves. And it can actually be really enlightening, because once the shadow, that thing that is triggering you that we don't want to look at is actually looked at, then it's transformed, it's transmuted, like it's no longer shadow.
Right.
So there's an alchemy that happens like right off the bat. um, what I have found to be helpful, the times that I've noticed that my shadow is rising up, um, I kind of give it a personality. So she's like the wild child. Like my shadow, she's the wild child. Her hair is like all crazy. She dresses kind of like punk rock. And this is how I came to terms with like making friends with my shadow, because she's a part of me, and she lets me know when something is off. So I understand that that's her job. So when she rises up, when she's pissed off about something, when something triggers her, um, I feel it rise up, and then I'm just like, whoever or whatever I'm engaging with, I'm like, I'll be right back. Like I know to step away and take a minute, like hold that thought. I need to go do something, and then I just sit with it and I let it rise up and flow through. And because to suppress it, it's just going to come up again. So you might as well just like let it come up and out. And so I feel all the feels, I have all the thoughts, and I'm just observing them and feeling them. And I'm like, okay, what's really going on here?
Right.
Because there's something else. It's not like the anger, the hurt, like it's not literally what's being said, it's what's underneath that. And so that what usually is underneath that is if I haven't been giving myself enough self-care, like filling my cup, if I've just been giving,
Mm-hmm.
there's this like, what about me thing that comes up. there can also be a thing about um, not wanting to share, like a scarcity thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, okay, again, that means I haven't been giving enough to myself. Otherwise, I'd be in a very generous like space. So it's about being able to sit with it and experience it, and then just kind of be curious about it. And that just brings in the compassion and the empathy for self too.
Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, in doing the shadow work that I do, and I've trained people too to do it, and with other people, and yeah, the shadow always is like trying to bring you almost to the complete. It's always, it's like with thoughts. It's trying to bring you to kind of the complete opposite of what it seems to be saying, right? It's like,
Hmm.
what are you really trying to tell me? Like, oh, geez, love yourself or whatever, or something like that. I mean, so whatever it's trying to say, it's always empowering. It's just the opposite of what we think, that it can empower us. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at what are most of our audience think, like things in the world that could be a shadow. I mean, I'd love to explore this with you for a second, Winter, but one thing might be that, man, people really need to take care of the environment, or something like that. These people, these companies, they just want to pollute the heck out of it. They're just for money and all this stuff. All right, all right. So what are we disowning there? Are we tiptoeing around the world and not making any money, or like, is, you know what I mean? Like, is there something we're not embracing that's having us feel that way? But we know we can't think that way. No, otherwise they'll kill the planet and they'll kill all the animals, and everything's gonna die. And like, okay, hold on, just hang in there, like, just listen, like, what's that all about, really, when you're triggered from an issue like that? Like, what's it really trying to tell you? What is it really trying to tell you? I think that's brilliant what you said. Yeah, that's exactly the way to do it, right? It's just to be curious and see what it's really trying to tell us.
I feel like when people get like hyper focused on an issue like such as environmentalism, like definitely their heart is like in it, and they care
Yeah.
and have empathy for the planet. But I also feel like what's lying under that is some sort of sense of not being able to control some area of their own life. So it's like projected outward into like this cause, which they become very passionate about, and trying to like have some control over that. Does that make sense?
Right, totally does, right? I mean, when you don't feel like you have control in your own life, you try to see, well, when these issues come up, it's like that's like we're trying to really, it's part of what you're really trying to deal with. Of course, they're for the environment and all that stuff. They
Hmm.
like to see it change and all that. But the roots of where that comes from something completely different, is what I find. So
Yeah.
the deeper wounds, coming from their upbringing. Maybe they didn't have mom and dad. Maybe they had certain relationships where they weren't safe as a kid. And now, with this cause, this is going to get more people safe. So they're for that, right? So whatever it is, it relates to their own personal journey. That's why they connect with it so much, in part, often. When you say, like, when you said, like, they're very into it,
Yeah.
very into it, that there's usually, and there's a real charge in it. There's something from the person's story, and it's a beautiful thing because, yes, if you're a big advocate for, like, let's say we just brought up the environment, yeah, that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, are we in the most centered, awake state and being a leader for that? That's kind of my point here on Spirit Rockstar Show, right? So making sure that we are, and it's part of what I hope people explore, like, when they get triggered by the things that they get triggered by. Not that those things aren't maybe issues that are going on in the world, but take a look at your triggers, because more love, more compassion for yourself and others, I feel, is really where the answers are. Otherwise, we'll never be whole. We'll always be warring with ourselves and others, So We need to integrate into that love. Integrate everything into that love, no matter how hard it seems. We have to do the work. So, anyway, so Winder, I thought that maybe you had, if you wanted to, is there a process or to help with this or overall with taking energetic responsibility that you might want to share with us briefly today? I know that we talked about maybe doing something like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I found helpful is kind of like taking just like one day,
Mhm.
um, taking one day to kind of set the intention of, all right, I'm going to be more aware of how I am spending my energy and where my focus goes
Mhm.
today. And noticing also like what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and see what I can do about that. Um, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is kind of like picking one area to focus on, so that way it doesn't seem like overwhelming.
Mhm.
And picking one area, like for me it was Instagram, um, because I'm on there a fair amount, and I decided just for like an hour as I was scrolling to pay close attention to which accounts, like which posts um, felt like they were uplifting, like they uplifted my energy and I was gaining something from it, and which ones just felt like, well, that was a waste of time, like
Right.
scanning that added nothing to my day or to my energy. And then as I did that, like those accounts that didn't add and like felt like a waste of time, either unfollowed or muted them, so that I just removed them like from my site. And also taking note of like where I spend my energy, whether it's for me, it's a lot of internet stuff because that's where like we all are these days now.
Yeah.
So noticing like how much time I'm spending like on my phone or on YouTube or on Facebook, and just kind of mitigating that better, where it's like, okay, I know that I need to have my energy be productive for a certain amount of time today, then I can't like, fall down the rabbit hole of things. Other things that are really helpful is when you notice that your energy is on a high and you're feeling really good, and like your phone, you get a phone call or a text, and it's something that makes you go, ugh, like you don't have to respond to it.
Right.
Like you can, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to go there. I know many of us feel that urgency, like, oh, I've got to write back, or oh, I, have to attend to it. It can wait a day. Like it's okay. Like you want to maintain that good flow of energy for as long as you possibly can, and then deal with the stuff that like you need to deal with. And when people come to you, and this can happen out of the blue sometimes, you're having like a conversation and people come to you with like something really charged or like really painful, and you're just like, whoa. um, it's okay to kind of like time it and then gracefully like excuse yourself. Like you don't have to take on the energy. So all of this is just about being really conscious of your own energy, your interactions, and being able to preserve it better.
Yeah, I think that's all awesome. I mean, like, I know that sometimes before I write an email to somebody, if I was triggered by something, right, when that has happened, yeah, I have to write like 10 drafts. So that sometimes I'll maybe, it'd be better just to wait till I felt better, right? But like sometimes I've done it that way. And then other times I do it the other way. I'm like, okay, no the rule is always, right? No communication when you're triggered, as best as much as you can, it's best to your best of your ability. Like I had somebody messaging me with somebody anyway, it was a bizarre exchange, and it was somebody that I had known, and I had refriended them because I had my old account got disabled from Facebook, which but it happened to a lot of people recently. but like I got disabled for whatever the reasons are. And so I came back, I'm re-engaging this person, and I'm like, they're asking these questions. What? Tell me about your work. Well, how's your clients going? And like, and they're like ignoring some of the things I'm saying. I'm like, are you even this person? Is this who is messaging me? Next thing I know, this person comes on and is like, oh yeah, sorry, that's my assistant. I didn't know. We already have an established relationship. But I was so triggered by what this person, because at first I didn't know, like I didn't pick up on it right away. I was like, why are they acting this way? They're trying to take me step by step in an enrollment process. It just didn't feel good at all. No heart. So there's no heart energy, or what's going on? Is this even you? And I had all kinds of smart responses to send to them and all this stuff because I was triggered. And then I was like, no communication. No, just do it. Like you just, man, it's like a temptation, right? And it's just like, no, just don't. And then when I was clear, then I was able to respond appropriately. I just said, it's just kind of weird, is this even you and everything. And then it resolved itself in a nice way. So, but like, and that's how what I find is like, we really don't have, you're right. We don't have to respond when we're triggered. In fact, that's when you're not supposed to be responding. You're supposed to be, because you're not coherent. You're crazy right now. You're basically a little crazy. It's kind of what I call it. You're a little crazy right now. So you don't want to be talking like a mad woman or a man, right? So, take the time to get centered again and come back to it. Like you say, you don't have to respond right away. I thought that was amazing, and everything you're sharing, lots of great things. Um, so, well, that being said, as the show's moving along here, was there any other things you could share with us? Like, is there an energetic, quick process you can share with us for people to maybe work through something at all? Or, I know this is like your gift.
One of the things that I have my clients do is the heart breath. And I
Uh-huh.
lead them through this sort of meditation every session just to like bring them back to that place of center and to get them out of the headspace. And it's just a matter of closing your eyes and focusing on the area of the heart and taking 3 deep breaths. And it's this idea of each breath that we're sinking inward deeper and deeper. And it's the quickest way that I know of to bypass the monkeyness of the mind and coming back into that space where we are some of the time, but not as much of the time as we would like to be. But taking those 3 deep breaths helps one to sink further and further into one's inner space. And it's been really helpful even for those who struggle with meditation, just to like get there. And once you're there, the heart energy chakra is green, but there's also another one that's pink that's just above it called the high heart. And so you can focus on either one of those colors, the pink or the green, and just as you continue to breathe in and out, imagine it expanding. And you can make it as big as you like. And with the breath out, it gets brighter. And knowing that as you expand this heart energy space, you're also releasing fear, doubt, anxiety, irritation, frustration. And you're opening that heart space to allow in love, peace, joy, blessings, protection, and safety. So with the movement of the breath, it's like we're swapping out one thing and bringing in another thing. And with an expanded heart space, there's a sense of peace and calm that comes with that that did not exist before. And it also allows you to be open to the universe in the sense of what it wants to bring you for gifts and blessings and synchronicities. And coming out of that by doing small body movements like wiggling your toes and your fingers. And then slowly opening your eyes. It's coming into a much different energetic space than where you were previously.
Yeah, that's pretty delicious the way it drops in. I notice it for me dropping into my power center, like a clearness dropping in, just like more of a little bit more of a little bit of a ragdoll kind of relaxation starting to come in. But it's like, oh, okay. That's pretty nice. Yeah. So interesting, your process, because that's what I've noticed about your vibration. I mean, I think everybody's different. It's the process, but it's also the person, guiding the process. And so for me, that's what I feel like happens is a lot of this heaviness, is what you're good at helping. You're facilitating the drop, in people's energies. And I know it sounds so simple, like, yeah, everybody does that, but it's just it's got a different quality to it where it's just um like it really gets you just kind of in a really deeper sort of relaxation for me in my power center is what how it's coming into me. So I appreciate that. I feel like that's I know it's happening for me, it's happening for somebody else. So I sense that that's probably true for others. What are some of the things people notice when they work with you and you do all this magic with them?
What they notice, especially the ones who have difficulty meditating, they notice that I'm able to like immediately bring them into that meditative state. And they're the ones who I work with, like in the program at the beginning, if they had difficulties visualizing or like experiencing sensations from the energy, like after working with me a few times, they're actually able to see the colors and the motions and everything that's happening. And basically, when I bring people through, I call them meditation calibrations because it's a form of energy work too. They're just like, they're like, that felt so good. I didn't want to leave. Like, I just wanted to stay in that space. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's tempting to just like hang out there all day. But it's a really great way to kind of like recalibrate yourself, especially when you're about to like start something new or start something big.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. When I go through the processes with you guys, and I'm just like, okay, I'll just hang out over here. Not necessarily. It was great for continuing the interview. But we are getting near towards the end of the show anyway. So let's go ahead and share with them. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to be people that are feeling the power of your energy and your work and who you are. I want to follow up with you. So I know you do have a free gift. And so we're going to go ahead and put this in the show notes. But yeah, you want to tell them about this amazing free gift you have for them?
Yeah, so the free gift that I have is called a complimentary expansion call. And you can book it through my site, and it's about 15 to 20 minutes of me finding out more about you, your journey, where it is that you've been struggling, where you've been finding challenges, coming up against obstacles, stuff like that, as well as what your dream, what your vision is for what it is you want to be and what you want to like unfold in your life. And as we're talking through this process, I begin to channel and receive exactly where it is that things are stuck, what it is that you can do to help yourself like navigate certain points. And oftentimes different flower essences will make them, they'll pop up while I'm talking to a person. So I'll know to recommend specific like flower vibrational medicine for them. So it's a really beautiful conversation that kind of opens up the door to possibilities and see how it can help you. And lots of times people will leave the conversation with a few simple but really effective tools that they can use right away and see how they like them, and just kind of like take it from there.
Great, great. And the URL, because not everybody will see this in a show note or in our on our blog at yoursacredpurpose.com/blog. You'll be able to find this interview. But the URL for this this complimentary expansion call to explore possibilities around your personal journey, connecting with your purpose, and getting this direct one-to-one connection with Winter, with their amazing energies. It's bit.ly/free soul call. So it's bit.ly/free soul call. Hey, got nothing to lose. It's complimentary. And if there's somebody that's probably pretty no pressure about doing anything else with her, it's probably Winter, because you'll just either want to continue or not. So, I know a lot of people will worry about those things, right? So, but so yeah, and then we can. You want to mention about your website too?
Oh, yes. On my website, you can find out more information about me, my lineage. The links to my books are there also, as well as a little bit more description about the particular kind of coaching work that I do. And that's at thesoulcall.com.
Yeah, the soulcall.com. Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
soulcall. I can get out of my mouth. The soulcall.com. Oh gosh, I'm too ragdollish. Okay. All right. So yeah, as we're wrapping up here, this is the time of the show. I'd like to give the opportunity to tune into my guests briefly. So are you ready to receive today, Winter?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, so let's go ahead. I'll just see whatever comes through for a minute or two here. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you do this consistently or all the time or anything, but the guidance is telling me to give attention to the fact that you're a hands-on healer. Now it's partly metaphorical, but it's also literal. So this is you are really particularly talented in bringing people into the quantum energy and things, moving, rearranging. And so part of that comes through your hands. So I just noticed that about you, that it is really powerful. Let's see what else is coming. Something about a loved one. There's a loved one coming in. Something about a loved one coming. Let's see what that's about. Tell me more about that. I keep getting this feeling like a loved one's coming to you. It feels, I don't know if it'll be true or not. You can tell me later, Winter, but I feel like there's this loved one in your life that has been gone and lost. That's going to be rediscovered. I don't, I'm not certain on the time frame, but it just feels like this loved one's coming back in. But I feel like there's this deeper heart healing going on for you, this deeper healing. We're always going deeper, but like this deeper healing. And this healing is going to help bring this sense of this lost loved one into your life. So, so I mean, there's might be more in that, but anyway, just share what comes through. And next thing is just the the power of your ability to sort of be a channel for everything and for everyone. So yeah, that you'll have, you know, a lot of connection in your third eye energy. Um, and yeah, I mean, you're sort of an alien, you know what I mean? Like I am too, but you're sort of an alien. So it's like uh, you can bring so many different connections to weave into the fabric of the matrix here during this time. And so I just noticed that gift. They really are here as part of the planetary ascension plan. Leading, you know, you're leading in there as well in that team. It's not always in a visible way. A lot of it is just you're doing, it's just happening. And then of course, like you're here, you know, you're in different places where you're visible and you're leading and sharing visibly, but there's this invisible realm where you're constantly working, even when, you know, it's happening. It's just happening. And so that's something else. Yeah, and the last thing maybe is just say it seems like the guidance wants to keep reminding you how sweet life is, to allow yourself to continue to receive more sweetness into your life. Um, that yeah, because there was the some bitter pills of the past, and they're like, okay, there's more sweetness to receive, and you keep shedding this old bitterness energy that it built up. So more love, more goodness. Yeah, so receive more. It's like receive more. It's okay. It's coming with other attachments or agendas or manipulation. Trust receiving more is the overall like general message. But yeah, for a minute or two, that's what I have to share for today. So Winter.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay. All right. So yeah, anything you want to share real briefly about any of that before we wrap up?
No, that was all very much on point.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, cool. Right. If people want to check me out, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com and go ahead and yeah, you can, when I'm not a ragdoll like now, you can go ahead and receive an energy scan from me. They see it still works, even with me, it'll be ragdollish. So you can go ahead and receive some of that from me if you want to. You'll see how to do that and see about working with me. There's also a free meditation there. So you can learn to meditate and make money to get into that flow each day and utilize that as a free tool. And I got people saying they're making more money just listening to the meditation. Of course, they're doing other things with it, but like they find that it's a huge piece of what's helping them. So anyway, so I'll leave it at that for me. And then it's at yoursacredpurpose.com. And Winter, yeah, any last words or any last things to share with our listeners before we wrap up for today?
This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. And please use that heart breath technique to help you recenter and get back to your essence.
Nice. Yeah, it's really deep and dropping out a lot of old energy. It's really good. Wonderful. All right, everybody. We're so glad to have had you with us today. Keep on tuning in here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, and we'll keep on rocking it. Okay, till the next time, everyone. You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.